Everyone feared the wounded SEAL commander, and for good reason. Nurses lasted 48 hours before running out of the mansion in tears. But here's the truth. Nobody dared to say out loud. Grant Hale wasn't just broken. He was being buried alive while still breathing. Picture a storm pounding the Rhode Island coast, your hands cold on a steering wheel, debt notices waiting at home, and one last contract that could save your family. Erin Caldwell steps into Blackwood Estate and smells antiseptic over old money. Upstairs, something shatters. A man growls for her to get out, and the fourth pump in the corner hums like a metronome, counting down his mind. Stay to the end, and you'll see how medicine becomes warfare, how silence becomes a weapon, and what it costs to drag the truth into daylight. If you're watching from a real place tonight, drop your location in the comments and don't look away. The hallway still held the sharp metallic bite of shattered crystal, and Erin Caldwell could feel Grant Hale's single uncovered eye on her like a sight picture. The storm pressed against the windows, steady and patient, as if the Atlantic itself had taken a seat to watch. Erin set her duffel bag down with a dull thud, then took one slow step deeper into the room. The air was cold enough to tighten her knuckles. Hale's wheelchair sat angled toward the blackout curtains, the reinforced frame too clinical for the antique furniture round it. That contrast was the first thing that bothered her. Money and medicine sharing the same space without ever touching. On the side table, a pitcher of water and a glass that matched the one he had thrown expensive heavy chosen for appearances. On the far wall, a monitor blinked in quiet green pulses. In the corner, a locked infusion pump hummed with the calm confidence of a machine that never had to argue with anyone. Erin lifted her stethoscope. "Arm out," she said. Hale's right hand flexed on the leather armrest. His fingers were thick and scarred, the kind of hands that had once climbed ropes and carried men. The skin on his left side was a different story, grafted and angry where it showed above the collar of his hospital shirt. He did not move. "You don't get to order me," he said. Erin did not smile. She had learned in trauma bays that a smile could be mistaken for weakness. She stepped closer, stopping at the edge of his reach, close enough to make a point, but far enough to move if he decided to test her again. "I'm not ordering you," she said. "I'm telling you what's happening. Either you give me your arm, or I document refusal and you sit in your own numbers. Your choice." Hale let out a low sound that might have been a laugh if it had not been so dry. His jaw clenched, and for a moment Erin saw the tug of pain under the anger, the way his breath hitched in the ribs when he shifted. He finally shoved his forearm forward with a sharp motion as if he might shatter the cuff through sheer spite. Erin wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm, snug and efficient. She listened to his heart with the stethoscope eyes on his face the whole time. She did not flinch at the scars. She did not pity him. Those were the two things people always did flinch or pity, and both made men like Hale dig in harder. His pulse was fast. Not panic fast. Controlled fast like a body that stayed ready even when it was trapped. "Any chest pain?" she asked. "Leave," he said. "That's not an answer." Hale's good eye narrowed. The blue of it looked almost unnatural in the dim light. Cold water under ice. "You keep talking," he said, "like I won't break you." Erin tightened the cuff and waited for the reading. The machine beeped softly, oblivious to threats. "You could," she said, "but you haven't yet." The cuff released its pressure. Erin recorded the numbers on the chart at the foot of his bed, then turned back toward him. "I'm going to check your dressings," she said. Hale's shoulders rose, the muscle there bunching as if he were preparing to lunge even from a chair. Erin watched the movement and weighed it with the same part of her mind that had learned how to read men who were about to swing. He did not have the balance he used to. He did have strength. Strength that had nowhere to go. "No," he said. Erin glanced at the locked pump in the corner again, then at the sealed cabinet beside it. Everything in this room that mattered was either bolted down or coded. It was the room of a man being managed, not healed. "I'm not going to fight you for it," she said. "I'll come back in 10 minutes. You can decide if you want infection or not." She stepped out and closed the door behind her, letting the click of the latch speak for her. In the corridor, the quiet pressed in hard. The West Wing smelled like disinfectant layered over old wood. It was too clean, too controlled. Even the rugs looked like they had been vacuumed by someone afraid of being punished for leaving a footprint. At the end of the hall, a security camera lens glinted in the dark, fixed and patient. Erin held her gaze on it for a second, then kept walking like it was none of her business. Downstairs, the foyer lights were warm. The house tried to pretend it was a home with oil paintings and polished banisters with a vase already replaced where the broken one had died. Dr. Malcolm Greer stood near the fireplace with a tablet in his hand. He looked like the kind of doctor who never had to raise his voice to be obeyed. He watched Erin approach as if he had been waiting for the sound of her footsteps. "So," he said, "you made it past the welcoming rituals." Erin stopped a few feet from him. "He threw a glass," she said. Greer's mouth curved slightly. "He does that." "What do you do when he does that?" Erin asked. Greer lifted one shoulder in a controlled shrug. "We increase his medication. We reduce stimulation. We keep the household calm." Calm. That word again. Erin had heard it from administrators who cared more about liability than patience. Calm was what they wanted when a person was inconvenient. "His vitals are high," Erin said. "He is in pain. He is also angry." "He is not rational," Greer replied, as if that ended the conversation. Erin kept her face still. "He is alert," she said. "He tracks, he tests. That is not irrational, that is trained." Greer's eyes flicked quick and sharp, then settled back into bland politeness. "You have experience," he said. "That is why you were selected." "Selected by who?" Erin asked. Greer's smile did not change, but something in the air did. "The family," he said. "Senator Reddick prefers the best." Erin let that name sit in her mind. She had seen Reddick on television flag behind him, voice full of righteous heat about sacrifice and duty. She had also watched him avoid questions about veterans' care with the smoothness of a man who had never waited 6 hours in a crowded clinic. The idea of his nephew hidden in this mansion instead of treated in the open made Erin's stomach tighten. "If he prefers the best," Erin said, "why is Hale here?" Greer's gaze held hers for a fraction longer than before. "Privacy," he said. "Safety. He is a public figure. His condition would attract attention." "What condition?" Erin asked, keeping her tone neutral. "Because the file says Burns' spinal shrapnel traumatic brain injury post-trauma. The file reads like someone wants it to sound inevitable." Greer's jaw tightened. Only slightly, but Erin saw it. "You are not here to interpret politics," he said. "You are here to provide care." "I provide care," Erin replied. "I also document what I see." Greer stepped closer, lowering his voice like he was offering her a secret. "Then document this," he said. "Do not attempt to rehabilitate him. Do not challenge him. Do not create scenes. His uncle pays for discretion. You keep him alive. You keep him quiet." Erin looked at him for a moment, then nodded once, as if she were agreeing. In her chest, something small and sharp clicked into place. "Where do I keep my supplies?" she asked. Greer gestured toward a side corridor. "West Wing Station," he said. "The pump is controlled by biometric access. Do not touch it." Erin walked away without giving him the satisfaction of a reaction. As she passed the security detail near the kitchen entrance, she saw the posture, the earpieces, the careful way their eyes stayed on her hands. They were not ordinary guards. They carried themselves like men who had learned to move in formation, then learned how to stop moving in formation when it suited them. Erin kept her face calm and her pace steady. In the small staff room tucked behind the kitchen, she found a battered metal cabinet stocked with sterile packs, gauze tape, antiseptic wipes, and dressing supplies. It was a medical station built into a mansion, a hospital corner hidden behind the shine of wealth. Erin ran her fingers over the inventory list taped inside the cabinet door. Everything was counted. Everything was signed out. A woman in a plain gray uniform stood at the sink washing dishes with careful hands. She looked older, her shoulders slightly hunched as if she had spent years learning how to take up less space. Erin cleared her throat gently. "Mrs. Doyle, Erin," said, reading the name tag. "I'm Erin, the new nurse." Mrs. Doyle flinched at the word new. "You won't last," she said, not unkindly. "Just tired." Erin did not argue. She poured herself a glass of water from the sink and drank it slowly. "How many came before me?" Erin asked. Mrs. Doyle wiped her hands on a towel and kept her eyes on the counter. 3 this month, she said. More before that. "Were they all scared of him?" Erin asked. Mrs. Doyle's mouth tightened. "Some were," she said. "Some were scared of other things." Erin felt a chill that had nothing to do with the storm. "What other things?" she asked. Mrs. Doyle looked toward the doorway as if the house itself might be listening. "I should not," she whispered. Erin lowered her voice. "I can pretend I did not ask," she said. "But if something here is dangerous, it will hurt him too." Mrs. Doyle swallowed, her throat working. "They watch everything," she said. "The guards, the doctor, the senator's people. They watch like they are waiting. Waiting for what Erin thought. Waiting for him to die. Waiting for someone to slip." Erin set her glass down. "Do you ever go upstairs?" she asked. "No," Mrs. Doyle said quickly, "not anymore." Erin nodded once, then returned to the west wing. She paused at Hale's door and listened. Silence. Not the calm kind. The coiled kind. Erin opened the door and stepped in without ceremony. Hale was still in the chair, head angled toward the curtained window. The shadows made the room feel underwater. Erin moved to the bedside table and began laying out dressing supplies with a quiet, methodical rhythm. Cotton pads, sterile saline, new gauze, tape cut and ready. She made the routine visible, not to soothe him, but to remove his excuses. Hale watched her from the corner of his eye. "You think you can fix me," he said. Erin did not look up. "I think I can keep you from rotting," she replied. Hale's breath hissed through his teeth. "Rotting," he repeated, voice thick with contempt. Erin finally met his gaze. "That is what happens when wounds do not get cared for," she said. "People call it complications. It is wrought with paperwork." Hale's expression flickered. Not softness. Something like recognition. He had lived in a world where words were stripped down to what mattered. Erin was speaking a language he understood. "Turn your torso," Erin said. "No." Erin stepped in close enough that he could smell the antiseptic on her gloves. "I can do this the easy way," she said, "or I can document refusal and Greer increases your dose and you wake up with a fever you do not remember." Hale's jaw clenched again. Erin saw the effort it took for him to shift the way his right hand trembled when he moved his weight. Pain lived in him like a second skeleton. He turned just enough. Erin worked without hesitation. The burn grafts along his ribs and shoulder were angry, tight, glossy under the light. Some edges looked dry. Some looked irritated. She cleaned gently, precise, the way you moved when you knew skin could tear. Hale's breathing changed as she touched him. He tried not to react like a man refusing to give an enemy any information. Erin kept her voice neutral. "Any drainage?" she asked. "Leave," he said, but the word was weaker now, threaded with exhaustion. Erin taped the fresh gauze down and stepped back. "You eat," she said. "Protein. You need it." Hale's eye narrowed. "You think I do not know what I need." "I think you have not been given a chance to choose anything," Erin replied. The room went still. Hale stared at her, and Erin felt the weight of his stare like pressure on a bruise. "What do you know about choice?" he said. Erin held his gaze. She could have told him about the bank notices in her glove compartment, about the way her childhood home looked in her mind, like a patient on a gurney fading. She could have told him she had taken this job because the number on the contract was the only thing standing between her and losing everything her father had left behind. But she did not offer her life up like a bargaining chip. "I know what it costs when you do not have it," she said. Hale looked away first. Not in defeat. In withdrawal. Erin left a protein shake on the table within his reach. She did not beg him to drink it. She simply placed it there, then walked out and wrote her notes in the chart. Her handwriting was neat, clinical, honest. The first night, Hale tested her, not just with thrown objects, but with silence and sudden outbursts, with refusing to cooperate until the last possible moment. Erin moved through it like she had moved through crowded emergency rooms where the air smelled of blood and disinfectant and fear. She did not take it personally. She treated it like weather, dangerous weather but still weather. When Hale tried to shove her away during a dressing change, Erin used his momentum to control his arm, safe and firm, keeping his joints from twisting. She had learned leverage the hard way, not from martial arts classes but from trying to keep frightened people from injuring themselves when pain made them wild. Hale grunted and fought for a few seconds, then stopped breathing, hard shoulders trembling with effort and rage. Erin leaned in close enough to let him hear her without raising her voice. "You are hurting yourself," she said. "Not me." Hale's eye burned. He did not answer, but he did not fight again. In the mornings, Erin walked the west wing and listened to the house. The security guard outside Hale's room changed shifts with quiet discipline. The guards spoke into their earpieces in clipped phrases. They treated the hallway like a perimeter. Erin was not invited to the staff dining area. She ate in the small supply room, a protein bar in one hand, her chart notes in the other. On the second day, Erin tried to speak to Hale like a human being, not a problem. "What did you do before?" she asked, while checking his pulse. Hale stared at the wall. "You read the file," he said. "The file is ink," Erin replied. "I asked you." Hale's throat worked. He swallowed, and Erin saw the moment his mind pulled back as if the question opened a door he kept nailed shut. "I did my job," he said. Erin nodded and did not push. She knew the difference between a door that was locked and a door that would slam your fingers off if you forced it. That afternoon, she requested physical therapy notes from Greer. She did it casually, like it was routine. Greer's response came back cold, not indicated. Erin stared at the words. Hale had muscle wasting in his legs. His body was stiff from long hours in the chair. His hands trembled at times, not from fear, but from strain. Physical therapy was not optional, it was basic. Erin found Greer in the hallway outside the east wing. "I want therapy consults," she said. Greer did not stop walking. "He refuses," Greer said. "Then document refusal," Erin replied. "And try again. That is the job." Greer stopped then, slow and controlled, and turned to face her. "You are persistent," he said. "I am thorough," Erin answered. Greer's eyes sharpened. "Your contract," he said, "is private duty care. It is not advocacy." Erin kept her face calm. "Care is advocacy," she said. For a moment, Greer's polite mask thinned just enough for Erin to glimpse the irritation underneath. "You will be paid," he said. "You will be protected. Do not mistake that for permission." Protected, Erin thought, by the same people who were watching her hands. That night, Hale did not throw anything. He did not speak. He did not touch the protein shake until Erin left the room. Then she heard the faint click of the straw against the cup from the hallway. She did not comment on it later. She let him keep his pride intact. On the third day, Erin noticed the schedule. Every 4 hours, the infusion pump initiated a cycle. The label on the bag read, "Analgesic Compound Broad Spectrum." The handwriting on the tag looked formal, almost too formal, like it was meant to reassure someone who never asked questions. Erin had hung enough antibiotics to know their smell. She had pushed enough pain medication to recognize how it moved through tubing. This fluid was too clear, too thin. It looked like water, but not like sterile saline either. When she leaned closer, the scent was faint chemical, like something designed to hide in plain sight. At 1600, the pump started. A soft mechanical whir, a green light. The drip advanced. Hale's breathing changed almost immediately. His shoulders dropped a fraction, not with relief, but with surrender. His jaw slackened. His gaze lost its knife edge. It did not look like pain control. It looked like someone pulling the plug on a man's mind. Erin moved to his side and checked his pupils. They were tight. She checked his pulse. It was still fast, not the slow, heavy rhythm of opioid sedation. Something else. "Hale," she said quietly. He blinked once, slow, heavy. "Commander," she tried giving him the title, like a handle he could grip. His mouth moved, but the words came out thick slurred. "Stop," he whispered. Erin's throat tightened. Stop what she asked, though she already knew. His fingers curled weakly around her wrist, not strong enough to hurt her now, but strong enough to beg. "The noise," he murmured. "Make it stop." Erin held still, letting him hold on. His skin was hot feverish. Or drugged, or both. "It is okay," she said, and the words tasted like a lie because she did not know what okay meant in this house. Hale's grip loosened. His head tilted and he slumped into the chair as if gravity had doubled. Erin stepped back and looked at the pump. It sat there locked, humming like a heartbeat that belonged to someone else. She went to the chart and wrote down the exact time the cycle started. The exact time Hale's speech shifted. The exact time his coordination collapsed. She kept writing until her hand stopped shaking. Later in the kitchen, Mrs. Doyle set a plate of food down in front of Erin without being asked. It was simple. Chicken rice, steamed vegetables. Home food made by someone who still believed in feeding the living. Erin looked up. "Thank you," she said. Mrs. Doyle did not sit. She hovered near the counter, eyes darting toward the hallway. "They want him docile," Mrs. Doyle whispered suddenly, voice barely audible over the hum of the refrigerator. Erin froze. "What did you say?" Erin asked. Mrs. Doyle's hands twisted in her apron. When he first came home, she said he tried to leave. He screamed for a phone. He begged for his commander. He said names. He said he had to report something. After that, the doctor started the machine. After that, he stopped saying names. Erin's stomach turned cold. "Did anyone else hear him?" Erin asked. Mrs. Doyle shook her head. "The guards told me I imagined it," she whispered. "They said the senator wants peace. They said, do not stir him up." Peace, Erin thought. Another word that meant silence. She pushed her plate away, appetite gone. "Mrs. Doyle," she said carefully, "how long has Senator Reddick been paying for this?" Mrs. Doyle looked down. "I do not know," she said, "but he visits when the storms are loud. He likes when the ocean covers the sounds." Erin sat very still, listening as the wind rattled the windows. The estate did not feel like a home. It felt like a sealed room where sound went to die. She returned upstairs and found Hale slumped in the chair, mouth slightly open, his chest rising and falling in shallow, drugged breaths. The pump light blinked steady, satisfied. Erin checked his oxygen saturation. Acceptable. His blood pressure. Elevated, but stable. Stable did not mean safe. Erin stood in the corner of the room and watched him for a long time. She watched the way his scarred hand twitched now and then as if his body still remembered how to fight even when his mind was forced into fog. She watched the closed cabinet where supplies were locked. She watched the pump like it was a guard with no face. When she finally turned off the bedside lamp and the room fell back into gray shadow, Erin did not leave. She sat in the armchair near the window, the one place where she could see both Hale and the pump at the same time. She kept her chart on her lap pen in her fingers and listened to the quiet. Down the hall, the security guard shifted in his seat. A magazine page turned. The sound was too ordinary to belong in a place like this. At midnight, the pump clicked and the hum deepened. Erin's gaze lifted instantly, sharp as a reflex. She did not move toward it, not yet. She simply watched the green light turn on, and she waited, eyes open, for the moment the fluid began to steal him again. Erin stayed in the armchair until the small hours, listening to the mansion breathe. The infusion pump did not sound threatening. That was the problem. It hummed with the steady confidence of something that had done this 1,000 times without anyone questioning it. The green light glowed like permission. The line fed into Grant Hale's arm, and the man who had looked at her like a predator only hours ago softened into a slack, distant version of himself. His jaw loosened. His eyelid fluttered once, then stilled. His good eye the one sharp enough to cut dulled as if someone had poured smoke into it. Erin watched the shift with the same attention she used in an emergency department, when a patient started slipping and the room had not noticed yet. She checked his pulse again. Fast. Too fast for someone peacefully sedated. His skin was warm. Not febrile warm. Chemical warm, the kind that came with a nervous system pushed and pulled by drugs it could not name. She looked at the bag hanging from the pole. The label was clean and official. The handwriting on the timestamps was too neat. There was a scent in the air, faint and sterile and wrong, like a janitor had mopped with something stronger than soap. Erin picked up the chart and wrote down what her eyes had already memorized. Time of infusion start. Time of neurological change. Pupils, heart rate, respiratory pattern. She wrote it the way she documented assaults and overdoses and unexplained bruises, the way you wrote when your notes might one day be read in a place where lies went to die. When the pump cycle ended, its hum softened. Hale did not wake. He did not stir. He simply existed in the chair like a man placed there and forgotten. Erin's gaze slid from his face to the locked infusion pump again. The casing was reinforced, the access panel sealed. A small scanner sat near the control buttons, a device designed to keep hands off it, not to keep germs out, to keep people out. At some point, the security guard in the hallway coughed and shifted in his chair. The sound traveled through the door like a reminder. Erin sat very still until the guard settled again. She did not reach for her phone. She already knew there was no signal in the West Wing. She had tried earlier out of habit, then stood there staring at the empty bars like the phone was the one failing her, not the other way around. She waited until her breathing matched the quiet. Then she approached Hale and adjusted the blanket over his legs with a careful hand. Not comfort, camouflage. She did it the way she had covered a patient in a hallway bed before security arrived because privacy mattered even when nobody in charge acted like it did. Hale's lips moved barely. Erin leaned in. A sound came out thick and slurred more breath than word. Juice, he murmured. Erin froze. She had heard addicts call syringes juice. She had heard teenagers call cough syrup juice. She had heard half a dozen meanings for the same word, and none of them belonged in a mansion where a senator's nephew was being kept under a locked medical device. Hale, she whispered. Commander, look at me. His good eye rolled toward her but did not focus. The pupil stayed tight. His gaze floated like it could not latch on to the world. The bird, he mumbled. The bird went down. Erin's hand tightened on the blanket. What bird, she asked. His lips trembled. The jammer didn't work. He breathed. They knew. Erin felt the hair on the back of her neck rise. She forced her voice low, steady. Who knew, she asked. Hale's fingers curled around her wrist with sudden strength. It startled her not because it hurt, but because the strength did not belong to a man this drugged. It belonged to reflex, a soldier's body refusing to fully surrender. Greer, he murmured. Greer knew. Erin swallowed. Grant, she said. She chose his first name deliberately like she was throwing a rope to a man sinking. Stay with me, tell me what you mean. Hale's grip weakened. His head tipped back. His mouth moved again. Don't let him, he said. The words fell apart at the edges. Don't let him. It was the first time he had asked for anything. Erin stepped back, eyes on the pump. Her mind ran through the possibilities the way it always did when something stopped fitting. Pain management did not require a locked system unless someone feared tampering. A patient who refused care might need restraint, but chemical restraint had rules, oversight, documentation, accountability. None of that lived here. This was private medicine, in a private house paid for by a public man who loved cameras when they were pointed at him and loved silence when they were not. Erin closed the chart and set it down. She took a breath, quietly, carefully. Then she walked out of the room. The security guard lifted his head at her movement. He was broad-shouldered with an ex-military stiffness and a face that looked carved from irritation. Everything good, he asked. Erin kept her voice flat. He's asleep, she said. I'm going to restock. The guard watched her hands as she walked away. Erin did not change her pace. She did not speed up. She had learned that fear looked like motion. Calm looked like routine. Downstairs, the kitchen was dim lit by a single lamp near the sink. Mrs. Doyle stood there again, wiping already clean counters like the action could scrub away whatever this place was. When she saw Erin, her eyes softened with something close to sympathy. "He's worse at night," Mrs. Doyle whispered. "He's drugged at night." Erin replied just as quietly. Mrs. Doyle's hand stopped moving. "You noticed," she said. Erin leaned against the counter, keeping her body language loose while her mind stayed tight. "What is in that pump?" Erin asked. Mrs. Doyle's gaze flicked toward the doorway, then back. "I don't know," she said. "I only know what I see." "What do you see?" Erin pressed. Mrs. Doyle hesitated, then spoke with the strained urgency of someone who had been holding a secret in her mouth until it tasted like rust. "I see the doctor come when the senator calls," she said. "I see the guards change when visitors arrive. I see your phone stop working when you walk upstairs. I see the commander wake up sometimes, just for a little, and when he wakes up he looks like he is trying to remember something that hurts." Erin's chest tightened. "Does Senator Reddick come often?" she asked. Mrs. Doyle shook her head. "Not often," she said. "Only when he wants things settled." Settled. Another word that meant quiet. Erin pushed off the counter. "Where is Dr. Greer right now?" she asked. Mrs. Doyle looked uneasy. "In the East Wing," she said. "He sleeps there sometimes. He does not like to drive in storms." Erin nodded once and turned back toward the staff room. She opened the supply cabinet and looked at the inventory list taped inside. Everything counted. Everything tracked. There was no box of extra sterile vials sitting open, no casual waste, no room for accidents. Erin stared at the list, then at the shelf. She reached in and pulled out a sterile syringe pack and a small specimen vial. She placed them in her palm and felt the faint tremor in her fingers. It was not fear, exactly. It was the rush of crossing a line. She had crossed lines before, sometimes for patients who could not speak for themselves, sometimes for people who would not survive if she waited for permission. She slid the items into the inner pocket of her scrub top and closed the cabinet. Then she paused, listening. Nothing. Just wind against glass. She walked back upstairs, moving through the West Wing like she belonged there. The camera lens watched her. The hallway light caught the edges of framed portraits, the faces in them wearing expressions of wealth and certainty as if history was something that happened to other people. At Hale's door, Erin stopped and listened again. His breathing was steady, shallow. The pump was quiet now, waiting for the next scheduled cycle. Erin opened the door and entered. She did not turn on the lights. The storm outside provided enough pale flashes through the curtain seams. She moved toward the pump and stood there for a long second, just looking. The casing, the seal, the tiny scanner, the tubing leading to Hale's arm. She did not touch it yet. She moved to the bedside table and set down the specimen vial in syringe hands, careful, deliberate. She checked the wall clock. The house kept time like a discipline. The next cycle was set for 0400. She had watched it long enough to know. Erin sat back in the chair by the window again, eyes never leaving the pump. The night dragged. The storm thickened. The mansion creaked as wind pushed against its bones. In the hallway, the guard shifted and then settled, his attention dulled by boredom and the belief that nobody would be foolish enough to do something in plain sight. At 0356, the pump light brightened. The hum deepened. The machine began its cycle. Erin stood. She moved to Hale's side. His head was turned slightly toward the curtains, his mouth parted. He looked younger when he slept, like the rage was a mask that had slid off. The scars remained. The stiffness remained. But the expression was vulnerable enough to make Erin's throat tighten with anger at whoever had decided this was an acceptable way to handle a human being. She placed 2 fingers on his wrist and counted his pulse, fast again, predictable now. Then she turned to the tubing. Her movements stayed small, controlled. She did not jerk, she did not fumble. She had done sterile procedures in the back of moving ambulances. She had started lines with a drunk screaming in her ear. She had sutured a scalp laceration while a man cried that he did not want to die. This was quieter than all of that, and somehow it felt more dangerous because of it. She cleaned the access point with antiseptic. She disconnected the line long enough to draw a small sample from the fluid already moving through it. Clear liquid filled the syringe smooth and thin. She capped it, transferred it into the vial, and sealed it with a careful twist. She wrote the time on the label in tiny block letters. She slipped the vial into her bra, tucked close against her skin, where it would not rattle and betray her. Then she faced the problem she could not ignore. If she stopped the drip entirely, the machine would alarm. The guard would hear. Greer would hear. The entire house would wake up around a single sound. Erin's gaze lowered to the line itself, to the manual regulator wheel near the tubing. She touched it lightly and turned it until the drip slowed to a thin, reluctant trickle. Not stopped, just reduced. She watched the pump. It did not scream, it did not protest. It continued its cycle, satisfied with the illusion of compliance. Erin returned to the chair in the corner and sat down. Her heart hammered, then settled. She did not allow herself to look relieved. She forced her mind into the calm state she used for triage, where fear was just another symptom to manage. Hale shifted once, a small movement like he was climbing up through heavy water. His brow tightened. His breathing changed as if his body noticed the absence before his mind could. Erin sat still and watched him. Minutes passed. The storm outside roared. Thunder cracked so hard it vibrated the glass. Erin's eyes drifted shut for a moment. She jerked awake at a sound. Not the pump, not the guard. A scrape. A low grunt. Erin blinked, disoriented, then sat up straight. Grant Hale was out of bed. He was on the floor, braced against the heavy oak desk, pulling himself up with controlled, shaking strength. His shoulders trembled. Sweat poured down the side of his face that still had sensation beads catching the pale light. His burned side looked tight-pulled, as if the scars were trying to hold him back. He did another repetition, jaw clenched, breath harsh. Then he froze and turned his head toward her. His eye was clear, not dull, not muddy. Clear, cold, focused. The eye of a man who was awake in every sense. "You touched the pump," he said. His voice was not slurred. It was rough, but sharp enough to cut. Erin stood slowly, palms open, not as surrender, but as honesty. "I dialed it back," she said. Hale's gaze dropped to the corner where the pump stood, then back to her. His breathing was heavy. His hands shook not from weakness alone, but from pain finally returning. His body had been living under a blanket of chemicals. Erin had pulled the blanket away. Why, he asked. Erin stepped closer, careful not to crowd him. He was on the floor, but that did not make him less dangerous. It made him more unpredictable. "Because you're not being treated," she said. "You're being sedated, and I want to know why." Hale stared at her for a long moment. Sweat slid down his jaw. His shoulders rose and fell as if each breath was a fight. "You need to leave," he said. "No," Erin replied. Hale's eye narrowed. "They will kill you," he said. Erin held his gaze, then let her eyes flick briefly to the door, to the faint shadow line under it where the hallway light bled through. "Who?" she asked. Hale's mouth tightened. "The people paying you," he said. The words landed heavy. Erin felt her heartbeat tighten, then steady, as her mind clicked into place. Greer. The guards, Senator Reddick. A private prison disguised as care. Erin crossed her arms, forcing herself to stand solid. "You owe me an explanation," she said. "I just risked my license and my safety to clear your head. You can threaten me, or you can tell me what you know." Hale's gaze held hers, then broke, as he pushed himself up with a grunt and dragged his body toward the wheelchair. His bad leg did not cooperate. He moved like a man hauling weight through mud. Erin stepped forward instinctively, but Hale lifted a hand sharply, stopping her. "I can't do it," he snapped. Erin stopped, jaw set. Hale made it into the chair with a sound that was half pain, half pride. He sat there, shaking his hands, gripping the armrest so hard the leather creaked. When he spoke again, his voice dropped to a low, controlled register that made the room feel smaller. "My team didn't get hit by chance," he said. Erin's stomach tightened. "What happened?" she asked. Hale looked past her toward the curtained window, as if the memory lived outside where the storm could erase it. "We were sent on a retrieval," he said. "Black level. No flags. No paperwork that would survive sunlight." He swallowed. Erin watched the muscle in his throat work. "Helicopter dropped us in," he continued. "We were told a drone went down. Prototype. Sensitive equipment. We were told to recover it before someone else did." Erin listened, letting the silence carry him. She did not interrupt. This was not a confession, it was a wound being opened. "When we found it, Hale said it wasn't ours." Erin felt the first real chill crawl up her spine. "Not ours," she repeated. Hale's eye flicked to her. "Tech I'd never seen," he said. "Casing wrong. Components wrong. Like it came from a different war." His hand flexed on the armrest. "And there were crates," he said, "stacked near the wreck, marked with a contractor logo." "What logo?" Erin asked. Hale's jaw clenched. "Redwood Dominion Group," he said. Erin recognized the name. She had seen it in the news wrapped in words like defense innovation and national security. She had heard Senator Reddick praise private contractors like they were the spine of modern warfare. "That's tied to your Uncle," Erin said. Hale nodded once, grim. "We cracked one crate," he said. "Expected electronics, spare parts, something that made sense." His voice tightened. "It was heroin," he said, "packed inside military-grade casings, pure, uncut, sealed like it was ammunition." Erin's breath caught. Hale's eye burned. "They were using military lanes to move it," he said. "Using transport that doesn't get searched. Using patriotism like a shield." Erin stood very still. Her mind flashed to emergency room nights, to young bodies blue and cold, to the way fentanyl had turned overdoses into sudden deaths. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. "What did you do?" she asked. Hale's mouth twisted. "We called it in," he said. "Not over radio. We were careful. We marked coordinates. We prepared a report for the right channels." He exhaled sharp. "Then we got hit," he said. "Not by insurgents, by professionals." Erin pictured it without needing him to describe every detail. The way trained men moved, the clean violence, the certainty. "They wiped us," Hale said, voice low. "They knew where we were. They knew what we found. They came to erase it." Erin swallowed. "You survived," she said. Hale's gaze dropped to his scarred hands. "Barely," he replied. "Blast took me, burns, shrapnel. I woke up weeks later in a military hospital overseas. When I tried to report what we found, Greer showed up." Erin's eyes narrowed. "Why would a private doctor be there?" she asked. Hale's mouth hardened. "Because my uncle sent him," he said. "Because my uncle needed a medical explanation for why I was about to accuse his friends of smuggling narcotics through war zones." Erin's mind snapped the pieces together with a sick clarity. "He said you were delusional," she whispered. Hale's eye flashed. "He said my brain injury scrambled my memory," Hale said. "He said trauma does that. He made me doubt my own mind. Then he started the infusion." Erin looked at the pump. "It's not just pain control," she said. Hale's voice dropped even lower. "It makes the fog come," he said. "I can't think. I can't hold on to the memory long enough to tell it to anyone who matters. When I fight it, they increase the dose." Erin's throat tightened. "They're keeping you crazy so no one believes you," she said. "And keeping you weak so you can't leave." Hale nodded once. "I get windows," he said. "Short ones, when the dose fades a little. I use them to build strength. Push-ups. Pulling myself up. Anything to keep my body from turning into a hospital bed." His hands shook again. Pain was in the tremor now. Erin saw it. He was paying for lucidity. "But the windows were getting shorter," Hale said. "Until tonight." Erin reached into her scrub pocket and pulled out the empty syringe wrapper, then stopped herself and folded it tight. She did not want him staring at the evidence of what she had done. She wanted him staring at her at the fact that she was real and here and not leaving. "We need help," she said. Hale's laugh was dry and bitter. "Help," he repeated. "From who?" The police chief who plays golf with my uncle. The local judge who shakes his hand at fundraisers. Erin's jaw tightened. Federal, she said. We call federal. Hale's gaze sharpened. Phone lines are monitored, he said. Cell service is blocked. Erin pulled out her phone and held it up. Empty bars. No service. Her stomach turned. How, she asked. Hale's head tilted toward the mansion interior. There's a jammer, he said. Military grade. They keep it running when it matters. Erin stared at him. Where, she asked. The library, Hale replied. Ground floor, east side. Erin felt the walls of the estate shift in her mind from mansion to fortress. Okay, she said. Then we get out, we drive, we hit the road and find a signal. Hale shook his head. As soon as Greer realizes the pump was altered, he said the gates lock. The shutters come down, the perimeter gets tight. Erin pictured it and believed it. She had seen how fast institutions moved when protecting themselves. Not fast enough to save a life, always fast enough to save a reputation. She paced once, then stopped. Then we need proof, she said. Hale's gaze stayed on her, assessing. The way he had assessed threats and allies his whole career. My uncle keeps proof, he said. Erin frowned. What proof would he keep, she asked. Leverage, Hale said. He keeps it on everyone. He doesn't trust loyalty. He trusts blackmail. Erin's eyes narrowed. Where, she asked. Hale's voice lowered again. His study, he said. East wing, ground floor, locked, cameras, motion sensors. Erin's pulse quickened. How do you know, she asked. Hale's mouth tightened. I lived here long enough to listen, he said. Long enough to watch what they guard. Long enough to learn which rooms the security team treats like holy ground. Erin stopped pacing and faced him fully. You want me to go in there, she said. Hale's expression did not soften. No, he said. I want you to leave while you still can. Erin held his gaze. I'm not leaving, she replied. Hale's jaw clenched. You think that makes you brave, he said. No, Erin answered. I think that makes me honest. Hale stared at her for a beat, then looked away, a flicker of something crossing his face. Not gratitude, not trust. Something closer to disbelief. Erin reached up and pulled the specimen vial from where she had hidden it. She held it in her palm between them. I have this, she said, and I have the times, and I have the change in your vitals. But if we want anyone to move on this, we need something with names and money attached. Hale's gaze dropped to the vial. His eye sharpened with a fierce, quiet focus. That will help, he said. But it won't be enough to bury him. Then we get enough, Erin replied. Hale's breathing was rough. He looked like a man balancing on the edge between pain and purpose. The safe is behind a portrait, he said finally. In his study. He hides it like he hides everything. Behind a face. Erin swallowed. Do you know the code, she asked. Hale's mouth tightened. He uses a date, he said. His first election win. November 4th, 98. Erin repeated it quietly, imprinting it. 11, she murmured. 0498. Hale nodded once. If Brock Hanley sees you, he said, voice hard, he won't hesitate. Erin felt a chill at the name. She had seen Hanley briefly earlier, a thick neck and cold eyes moving through the house with the ease of a man who believed rules were for other people. I'll be careful, she said. Hale's gaze held hers. Then without warning he reached under the mattress of the bed and pulled out a jagged shard of crystal wrapped in torn cloth. It was the same kind of crystal that had shattered near the door when he threw it at her. He had kept a piece, not for decoration, for survival. Erin's throat tightened. You've been waiting, she said. Hale's voice was low. I've been trying not to die, he replied. He held the makeshift weapon out to her. Erin stared at it, then took it. The cloth was rough against her palm. The shard was cold and sharp. Hale's hand closed around her wrist for a brief moment. Not drugged now, not pleading, but steady. If you hear the pump alarm, he said, do not run toward it. Run away from the hallway. The guard will move first. Erin nodded, committing the warning to muscle memory. She slid the shard into her pocket and tucked the vial into the inner fold of her scrub top again. She did not want to carry either like a trophy. She wanted them close because they were the only pieces of truth that existed in a house built for lies. Erin stepped toward the door. The storm outside cracked with thunder, bright light leaking around the curtain seams like lightning, trying to pry the room open. She paused with her hand on the knob and looked back at Hale. His face was damp with sweat. Pain lived in the tight line of his mouth, but his eye was clear and awake and anchored on her. Erin did not promise him anything. Promises were easy. Movement was harder. She opened the door, slipped into the hallway, and let it close behind her with a soft click that sounded like a decision. Erin slipped into the hallway and let the door ease shut behind her, careful enough that the latch did not click loud. The west wing swallowed the sound anyway. The air up here always felt colder than it should, as if the mansion saved its warmth for the rooms where power sat and ate. A strip of light ran under the guard's door down the hall. The man posted outside Hale's room had not moved in the last hour, but Erin did not trust stillness. She moved like she belonged, shoulders loose, pace steady, eyes forward. She kept one hand near her pocket where the wrapped shard of crystal rested against her thigh, a hard reminder that she had crossed a line and could not pretend she was just a nurse anymore. At the staircase landing, she paused. The ironwork railing was slick with polish, the kind of shine that looked expensive and felt like a warning. From here she could see down into the foyer where warm lamps made the house pretend it was normal. The storm outside had quieted for a moment, or maybe the mansion just held it at bay with thick walls and richer insulation. Erin could still hear the ocean when the wind shifted the low roar of water striking rock like a steady, patient threat. She started down. Every step felt louder in her body than it sounded in the air. A nurse in an old county hospital could walk with urgency, without attracting attention because chaos covered everything. Here, the quiet made every movement feel like a confession. Erin kept her breathing controlled, keeping her mind in that calm clinical mode where fear became a detail to file away. At the bottom of the stairs, a guard stood near the entrance hall suit jacket, tight across his shoulders, earpiece tucked behind one ear. His eyes flicked toward her as she crossed the marble. "Where you headed?" he asked. Erin did not stop. "Supply room," she said, running low on sterile packs. The guard's gaze tracked her hands, then her face searching for a tremor, a crack, anything that would justify interference. "East wing is off limits," he said, not as a reminder, but as a boundary. Erin slowed just enough to meet his eyes. "I heard you," she replied. "I said supply room." The guard held her gaze for a beat, then looked away as if bored. Erin walked on, keeping her route casual, taking the corridor toward the kitchen and the service hall rather than cutting directly toward the study. She let the house see routine before she asked it to ignore her. Near the kitchen entrance, she caught a glimpse of Mrs. Doyle in the doorway, face pale, hands clasped. The older woman looked like she wanted to speak and did not dare. Erin gave her a small nod, nothing more. She did not want to draw eyes to the fact that they had spoken at all. She turned down the service corridor and stopped at the medical station. She opened the cabinet, pulled out a bundle of gauze and tape, and set it in her bag where anyone passing could see it. She added a bottle of antiseptic. She made a show of being a nurse because the house expected a nurse to carry supplies. The act was not a lie, it was camouflage. Then she closed the cabinet and stood still listening, footsteps distant. A murmur of voices from the security room. A television laugh track somewhere behind a door. The normal noises of men, bored enough to believe nothing would happen on their watch. Erin stepped back into the hall and headed toward the east wing. The air changed as she crossed an invisible line. The west wing had smelled like antiseptic and old dust. The east wing smelled like money warmed by fire. Lemon polish. Leather. Cigar smoke trapped in curtains. The carpet under her feet was thicker, softer, the kind that swallowed sound on purpose. A framed photo sat on a side table. A man in a dark suit shaking hands with another man beneath an American flag. Erin recognized Senator Calvin Reddick instantly. He smiled like a man who had never been told no. The other man in the photo wore a uniform. A younger, Grant Hale, clean-faced eyes hard standing at attention beside the senator with a restrained expression that read, like duty without warmth. Erin's jaw tightened. She kept moving. A door at the end of the corridor stood closed heavy wood with a brass handle that caught the lamplight. Erin stopped outside it and waited, eyes half-lidded, listening for movement on the other side. Nothing. She placed her hand on the knob and tried it gently. Locked. She did not curse. She did not hesitate. She glanced down the corridor, then back toward the cross hall. No one in sight. The cameras were there, of course, but she had already noticed something about this estate. The cameras were positioned to protect the obvious entrances and the halls where staff walked. The East Wing's center corridor had blind pockets near the artwork and alcoves where shadows lived. The house had been built for privacy long before it was built for surveillance, and old architecture always left places for secrets. Erin reached into her hair and pulled out a bobby pin. Her fingers were steady. She had locked herself out of cheap apartments and hospital lockers enough times to know how to coax an old mechanism with patience. She kept her body angled so that if someone stepped into the hall, they would see a woman leaning close to a door. Nothing unusual in a house where staff checked locks and handled maintenance. Metal whispered softly as she worked. Not forced, not rushed. The lock resisted, then gave a fraction as if testing her resolve. Erin kept her breath shallow. A voice floated faintly from deeper in the wing, muffled by thick walls. Dr. Greer, perhaps. Someone else. Erin could not make out words. She kept her focus in her hands on the small movements. Time stretched, then a quiet click. Erin froze, listening. No alarm. No sudden footsteps. She eased the door open and slipped inside, pulling it closed behind her and letting the latch settle without noise. The study smelled like expensive paper and old smoke. A desk as wide as a gurney sat near the center, polished dark wood, reflecting a low lamp glow. Shelves lined the walls filled with books that looked curated rather than read their spines too clean, their placement too perfect. On a side table sat a decanter of amber liquor and 2 glasses. A globe stood in the corner like a joke about ownership. Erin kept her eyes moving, scanning. There, the portrait. A stern woman painted an oil chin, lifted eyes cold. The kind of face people called distinguished when they meant ruthless. The frame was ornate, heavy enough to hide something behind it. Erin approached it slowly, aware that her footsteps sank into the carpet like she was walking through moss. She placed her hands on the edges of the frame and lifted. The portrait moved outward, pivoting on hidden hinges. Behind it, set into the wall, was a steel safe with a digital keypad. Erin's mouth went dry. She pulled out her phone, not for signal, just for light. The screen's glow spilled across the keypad. She punched in the code Hale had given her, fingers firm. 110498. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a small green light flashed, and the lock mechanism released with a soft internal clunk. Erin exhaled through her nose, a controlled release that felt like relief and dread at the same time. She opened the safe. Inside were stacks of cash bound in neat bands, an envelope of passports, a slim black book with no title, a ledger. Erin reached for it like it might bite. She pulled it out, set it on the desk, and opened to a random page. Her eyes scanned columns of dates, amounts, coded notations. Redwood Dominion Group. Logistics. Equipment transfer. Numbers that made her stomach drop. Payments in the millions. Shipment routes that referenced foreign provinces and domestic ports. The handwriting was steady, confident. Whoever wrote it did not expect anyone to challenge their right to record crimes like routine expenses. Erin turned another page and saw a notation that made her throat tighten. Medical services. Private care. West Wing. A monthly figure that was too high for nursing wages and too regular to be accidental. She swallowed hard. The money trail did not just tie the contractor to the senator. It tied the doctor to the structure of silence. It made Hale's fog feel less like an unfortunate side effect and more like a paid service. Erin pulled her phone closer and began taking photos of the pages, quick and careful. She did not linger on any one line too long. She shot wide shots that captured the headings, then close shots of the entries with dates and amounts. She made sure to capture names when they appeared, initials when they did not. Her hands remained steady, but her heart did not. She flipped to another page and found a series of entries marked as special handling. Under that, the same phrase appeared multiple times. Cleanup team. Erin's skin went cold. She did not have time to interpret it fully. She snapped photos and closed the ledger, hugging it to her chest for a second, as if paper could be armor. A sound came from the hall. A soft shift. Not footsteps yet, a presence. Erin froze. The doorknob turned. The study door opened, and light spilled into the room like a spotlight. Dr. Malcolm Greer stood in the doorway, no longer polite. In his right hand he held a syringe. The barrel caught the light, clear fluid inside. Behind him, filling the doorframe like a wall, Brock Hanley stepped in with a stun device at his side, his expression calm in the way only a man used to violence could be calm. Greer's eyes went straight to the ledger in Erin's arms. His voice was smooth cold. "I told you," he said. Comfort, quiet, compliance. Erin took one step back, her calves bumping the desk. "Put that down," Greer said, as if it were a cup of coffee she had stolen. Erin's fingers tightened on the ledger. "You're drugging him," she said. Greer's mouth curved, not amused, more like irritated. "I am managing a man who cannot manage himself," he replied. "A man with brain injury and trauma. A man who would embarrass his family and compromise national security if he were allowed to speak freely." "National security," Erin said, voice steady. "Is that what you call narcotics packed in military casings?" Hanley's gaze sharpened for the first time. It was a small change, but Erin saw it. That tiny flare of attention meant she had hit a nerve. Greer's eyes did not blink. "You have no idea what you are holding," he said. "I know exactly what I'm holding," Erin replied. "I know what those numbers mean. I know what that pump is doing to him." Greer stepped forward one pace, syringe raised casually, like a man approaching a patient. "You are a nurse," he said. "Do not confuse your proximity to suffering with authority." Erin's jaw tightened. She kept her hands visible. She did not reach for the shard in her pocket. Not yet. A weapon was only useful if it created an opening, and right now the room had none. "You're going to kill me," Erin said, not a question. Greer's expression did not change. "No," he said. "You are going to kill yourself." Erin stared at him. Greer continued, voice almost gentle. "You have a history," he said. "An exhausted medical worker. Debt. Stress. A brother who died. It is very easy to write the story of a relapse. Very easy to make the police feel sorry for you while they close the file." Erin felt her stomach drop. She kept her face still, but inside something flared hot and violent. She had not told Greer about her brother. She had not told him about the debt. Someone had looked into her life like it was a chart on a clipboard. Hanley shifted his weight. The stun device at his belt crackled faintly, a small, hungry sound. Erin's mind moved fast, clinical. Distance to the door. Distance to the desk corner. Objects in reach. The heavy bust on a shelf. The decanter. The lamp. None of it mattered if Hanley got close enough to use that device. Greer's voice stayed calm. "Set the ledger down," he said. "Walk toward me. I will make this painless." Erin's throat tightened. "You're not going to make anything painless," she said. Greer's eyes flicked to Hanley. Hanley stepped forward. Erin's back pressed against the desk. Her fingers brushed the edge of her pocket where the shard lay. She did not pull it yet. If she moved wrong, Hanley would close the distance and she would wake up on the floor with no memory of how she got there if she woke at all. Greer advanced another step, syringe held like certainty. "Do you know what is tragic?" he said. "Not that you thought you could play hero. Tragic is that you were given simple instructions and you chose to complicate them." Erin's mouth went dry. "Where is Senator Reddick?" she asked. "Buying time." Greer's eyes narrowed, slightly annoyed. "Not here," he replied. "He does not dirty his hands with details. He delegates. He expects results." Erin felt the ledger press against her chest like a heartbeat. "You're his result," she said. Greer's smile thinned. "I am his solution," he corrected. Hanley moved again close enough now that Erin could smell his aftershave sharp and cheap against the expensive room. Erin's pulse pounded in her ears. She forced her breathing lower slower, as if she could convince her body not to betray her with panic. Then a sound cut through the tension, low and mechanical, followed by a faint scrape. Greer's eyes flicked toward the hall. Hanley turned his head. From the corridor beyond the study door came a heavy, uneven footfall, followed by another. The rhythm was wrong for a healthy man, but there was purpose in it. Determination. The kind that did not ask permission. A figure appeared in the doorway, not in a wheelchair, standing. Grant Hale filled the doorframe like a nightmare dragged into the light. He was barefoot, hospital pants loose on his hips gown hanging half open. Sweat poured down his chest. His face was taut with pain. His injured side shook with effort, but his eye was clear, burning with a cold focus Erin had not seen in the drugged man. In his hand, he held an iron infusion pole ripped from its mount heavy base swinging slightly as he steadied himself. "Step away from her," Hale said. Greer's mouth opened in something like disbelief. Then he laughed, a thin sound that did not fit the room. "Look at you," Greer said. "You can barely stand." Hale took one slow step forward. His bad leg dragged slightly, but he did not fall. The effort made his jaw clench hard enough that Erin saw the muscle jump in his cheek. "I don't need to stand long," Hale said. "I only need to end you." Hanley barked a laugh, crude and confident. He reached behind him, fingers closing around the stun device. "You want to play," Soldier Hanley said. "I'll put you back in bed. Might have to break what's left to keep you there." Greer stepped back quickly. Eyes sharp, one hand already moving toward his pocket as if searching for a radio. Hanley lunged. He moved like a man used to hurting people who could not fight back fast and certain. He swung the stun device toward Hale's ribs. Hale did not try to dodge. He could not. Instead, he dropped his weight, suddenly collapsing onto one knee. The arc of the strike whistled above his head and cracked into the doorframe, splintering wood. In the same motion, Hale drove the base of the infusion pole forward into Hanley's shin. The impact made a sound Erin felt more than heard, a dry snap like a thick branch breaking under pressure. Hanley howled. His balance wobbled. Hale used the pole like a hook, dragging Hanley's leg out from under him. The big man hit the carpeted floor, hard air bursting from his lungs. "Hale," Greer snapped, voice sharp now. "Stop this!" Hale's eye never left Hanley. "Erin," he said, voice ragged. "The gun." Erin's gaze snapped to Hanley's waist. There, half concealed under his suit jacket, was a compact pistol. Her body moved before her mind finished deciding. She lunged, dropping to a knee beside Hanley, fingers reaching for the grip. Hanley, despite the broken leg, surged with desperation. His hand shot up and closed around Erin's throat. His fingers crushed into her windpipe. Stars burst at the edges of her vision. His face twisted, spittle flecking his lips. "You little," he rasped. Erin clawed at his wrist nails, scraping skin, but his grip tightened. Air became a thin, impossible thing. Hale dragged himself forward across the carpet. Knees slipping, hands shaking with effort. He had dropped the pole to move faster. He was not graceful, he was desperate. He wrapped his forearm around Hanley's neck from behind and locked in a choke rough and brutal. Hanley's free hand flailed, trying to pry the arm away. Erin's lungs burned. Her eyes watered. She reached again for the pistol, fingers trembling, and managed to hook it out of Hanley's waistband. The metal felt heavy, real more frightening than comforting. Her hands shook as she raised it. "Let go." Erin choked out, though she did not know who she was ordering. He was ordering Hanley or Hale. Hanley's struggles weakened. His face darkened. Hale's forearm tightened, scars pulling taut as his muscles screamed. Erin could see the strain in Hale's jaw, the way his wounded side trembled, the way blood seeped through the edge of his dressing where the graft had been disturbed. Seconds stretched. Hanley's body sagged. His eyes rolled back. He went limp. Hale did not release immediately. He held the choke for a few beats longer, face turning purple with effort, then shoved Hanley's unconscious body away and collapsed onto his back, chest heaving. Erin dropped to her knees beside him. The pistol slipped in her grip. Then she caught it again with both hands, forcing herself not to drop it. "Hale," she whispered. His face was slick with sweat. His breath came in ragged pulls. "Greer," he gasped. "He's calling them." Erin's head snapped up. Greer was gone from the doorway. The study door stood open. The hallway beyond was empty. Erin's skin went cold. "We have to go," she said. Hale's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist grip surprisingly strong. "No," he said, voice tight. "If he calls, gates lock." Erin, swallowed eyes flicking toward the windows. As if the mansion had been listening, a siren began to wail, low at first, then rising into a full-throated alarm that vibrated the study's walls. Erin flinched. Hale did not. His expression hardened, as if the sound confirmed what he already knew. From somewhere deep in the house came a mechanical clank. Then another, like metal teeth snapping shut. Erin ran to the nearest window and pulled back a corner of the curtain. Heavy steel shutters slid down from hidden slots, sealing the glass with a brutal finality. The mansion closed itself. Erin's heart pounded. "We're trapped," she whispered. Hale pushed himself up on one elbow, grimacing as pain cut through him. His eye burned with a cold clarity. "No," he said. "They are." Erin looked down at him. Blood had started seeping through his bandage, spreading in a dark bloom. "You tore something," she said. Hale's jaw clenched. "Doesn't matter," he said. "Help me up." Erin slid the pistol into her waistband, unsure if she even had the right to carry it, then grabbed Hale under the arm. He was heavy, dead-weight muscle and bone. She braced her legs and pulled him upright. He leaned into her with a low sound that might have been pain, might have been anger, might have been both. They staggered toward the door. The siren cut off abruptly, replaced by an ominous quiet that felt worse. The house held its breath. Erin stepped into the hall, first scanning. No guards, no Greer. Only the soft glow of emergency lights along the corridor baseboards. Hale's breathing rasped near her ear. "Study was never the trap," he said. Erin swallowed. "It was bait," she replied. Hale nodded once. His grip tightened on her shoulder. They moved quickly as Hale's damaged body allowed. Erin kept her eyes ahead, then behind, then ahead again. The East Wing corridor felt longer now, stretched by adrenaline and fear. At the intersection near the foyer, Erin heard voices below, muffled but sharp. Hanley's voice was gone. Another guard shouted orders. A radio crackled. Erin's stomach tightened. Hale's eye flicked to the staircase. "No," he said, "not front." They cut down a side corridor toward the service passage, moving through the house like intruders in a place that had already decided they were unwanted. As they passed the kitchen entrance, Erin saw Mrs. Doyle pressed against the wall, eyes wide. The older woman's hands were trembling. "Go," Erin whispered to her. Mrs. Doyle shook her head. "They locked us in," she breathed. Erin's throat tightened. The staff were prisoners too, just quieter ones. A heavy thud sounded downstairs, followed by more voices, sharper now, more organized. Clear left. Clear right. Erin's skin prickled. Those were not the words of bored private security. Those were the words of men trained to enter rooms for a living. Hale's expression tightened. "That's not house staff," he murmured. Erin kept moving, guiding him toward the corridor that led back to the West Wing. The irony hit her like nausea. The place that had felt like a prison now felt like the only territory she understood. They reached the staircase to the second floor and started up. Halfway, Hale stumbled. Erin caught him bracing his weight. His breath came out in a sharp hiss. "Keep going," he rasped. Erin forced her body to keep moving. Her arms burned. Her legs shook. She was not built for carrying a man like Hale, but adrenaline turned her into something else. Something urgent. They reached the landing. Below, the front door blew open with a crash that echoed through the house. The sound was not of wood creaking. It was of force, of entry. Bootsteps hit marble. Voices snapped commands. Erin's heart slammed against her ribs. Hale's eye narrowed, listening. "Professional," he whispered, "not security." Erin's grip tightened on him. They pushed down the hall toward the west wing, toward Hale's room, toward the only place where Erin knew the angles and the camera positions. The corridor lights flickered once, then steadied. The storm outside raged against the shutters, rain hammering metal like thrown gravel. As they neared Hale's door, Erin heard the security guard's chair scrape somewhere behind them, then the jolt of footsteps. Someone moving fast. Someone responding to an alarm. Erin shoved Hale into his room first. "Inside," she hissed. Hale stumbled through the doorway. Erin stepped in after him and shut the door, locking it. The lock was symbolic. If the men below wanted this room, a lock would not stop them. But it bought a second, and a second mattered. Hale leaned against the wall chest, heaving. Blood seeped through his bandage more freely now. Erin's hands moved toward him automatically, the nurse in her refusing to let the patient part of him die, even while the woman part of her wanted to run. "You need pressure on that," she said, reaching for gauze. Hale caught her wrist. "Not now," he said. "Listen." Erin froze, ears straining. From the hallway came a distant radio crackle, then a voice low controlled, not familiar. "Second floor, secure in 2. Another voice answered. "Target likely west wing." Erin's stomach went cold. Hale's gaze locked on hers. "They're coming," Hale said, and the words did not carry panic. They carried calibration, like a man calling out wind speed before a shot. Erin's mouth had gone dry. The room around them felt suddenly smaller. The air heavier, the walls less like shelter and more like a box. Hale pushed off the wall with a strained breath. The blood at his side had soaked through the edge of his dressing, a dark stain spreading in slow confidence. "Not this room," he said. Erin glanced at the door, at the simple lock that would never hold against men who had already breached the front entry like it was cardboard. "Where?" she asked. Hale's eye flicked toward the ceiling, toward the hallway beyond, toward the geometry of the house, the way a soldier mapped terrain without thinking. "High ground," he said. "Narrow access." He limped toward the hallway. Erin caught his arm as he staggered, the muscle under her palm, tense and trembling. He was heavy, not just in weight but in will, the kind of weight that refused to sit down and wait for a verdict. Erin eased the door open a crack and listened. The West Wing corridor was quiet, but it was not empty quiet. It was the kind of quiet that came when professionals moved with discipline, when you could not hear them because they had learned how not to be heard. A faint radio hiss drifted from downstairs, then a voice low and clipped. "Hold stair. Sweep rooms." Erin pulled the door shut again. "They're on the first floor," she whispered. Hale nodded, once jaw tight. "Back stair," he said. Erin had walked the service corridors enough over the last days to know the layout, the narrow stairs tucked behind linen closets built for staff and supplies, not for drama. She pulled Hale toward the small door at the end of the hall, the one that led to the secondary stairwell. Each step he took looked like it hurt him in places he could not afford to feel. His face was damp, his breath loud in his chest. When they reached the door, Erin tried the handle. Locked. She swore under her breath, then caught herself and breathed through the frustration. She fished in her pocket fingers, finding the cloth-wrapped shard Hale had given her. She pulled it out, its edge catching the hallway light, and slid the tip into the lock seam. Not to pick it, to pry it enough to break the cheap internal latch. Metal resisted. Erin pressed harder. The latch gave with a soft crack. She pushed the door open and helped Hale through. The stairwell beyond was narrow and steep, painted a dull white that looked institutional. The air inside smelled like old linen and bleach. It was a throat leading upward. Hale's hand clamped on the railing. "Keep moving," he breathed. Erin guided him up one step at a time, her arm under his weight leaning into her shoulder. Above them, the house creaked as wind hit the shutters. Lightning flashed through tiny stairwell windows, the storm turning the walls into a strobe. Behind them, somewhere in the mansion, a door opened hard. Footsteps. Voices. Erin's pulse surged. They reached the second-floor landing and pushed into a corridor lined with closed doors, most of them storage. Hale pointed toward a linen closet at the far end. There, he said. Erin half dragged him down the hall. Their feet sank into carpet. Her lungs burned. Hale's breathing rasped like sandpaper. When they reached the closet, Erin yanked it open. Inside, shelves stacked with towels and sheets white and neatly folded. Behind the back panel, Hale pressed his palm against a seam in the wall and pushed. A small door popped inward, revealing a short crawl passage that angled up. Erin stared. "You planned this," she said. Hale's mouth twisted. "I learned," he replied. "When you can't leave, you learn every exit you can't use." He shoved himself into the opening. Erin followed, pulling the small door closed behind them and sliding the internal bolt. The metal clicked into place with a final sound that made Erin feel as if she had locked herself into a coffin. They crawled up into unfinished space. The attic air hit Erin's face dusty and dry, smelling of insulation and old cedar. The roof above them rattled with rain, the sound close enough to feel like it was inside her skull. Hale eased himself into a seated position against a stack of old trunks. He looked pale now, the adrenaline fading and leaving pain in its place like a hand closing around his ribs. Erin's eyes adjusted to the dim. The attic was cluttered with boxed decorations, covered furniture, a wardrobe draped in a sheet, and a coil of thick rope hanging from a hook like someone's forgotten camping gear. Hale's gaze snapped to Erin's waistband. "The pistol," he said. Erin touched it uncertain, then pulled it out and held it with both hands the way she had seen on television, which was the wrong way to hold anything that could kill. "I don't know how to use it," she said. Hale's jaw clenched. "Then you learn fast," he replied. He reached for it. His hands were shaking, but the way he handled the weapon was automatic. He checked the magazine release and let it drop into his palm. He counted the rounds with a glance, then shoved it back in and racked the slide with a practiced motion that made Erin's skin tighten. There was something terrifying about that competence in a man who could barely stand. 16, he murmured. Full. Erin swallowed. "That's not enough," she said. Hale's eye flicked toward the attic hatch area, toward the path they had used to get up here. "It's never enough," he replied. "It's what we have." A creak below them. A faint thud. Hale's posture changed. He tilted his head, listening the way some people listen to music. "They're upstairs," he said. Erin's hands tightened. The pistol felt too heavy and too real. Hale shifted, and a wet sound came from his side. Erin's gaze dropped. Blood had seeped through his dressing and now pooled at the edge, shiny and fresh. "You tore your graft," Erin said. Hale's nostrils flared. "Do it," he said. Erin stared at him. Do what she asked, though she knew. Hale lifted the hem of his gown with a trembling hand. The dressing at his ribs was saturated. Under it, the wound had opened a split line in angry scar tissue that oozed fresh blood. Erin's mouth went tight. Her training rose like a reflex. Gloves, light, sterile field, pain control. None of that existed here the way it should. "I need to close it," she said. Hale nodded once. "I don't have lidocaine," Erin added. Hale's eye held hers unblinking. "I've been on fire," he said. "I've been drowned in chemicals. A needle is nothing." Erin opened her medical bag. Hands moving fast but careful. She had grabbed it when they fled the most instinctive thing she had done all night. Inside were gauze packs, tape, antiseptic, a suture kit she had brought for dressing changes, and a small pen light. Erin clicked the pen light on and held it between her teeth. The beam cut through the dust like a thin knife. She cleaned her hands and his skin with antiseptic, the sting making Hale's jaw tighten. His breathing sped. Erin threaded the needle. Hale watched her hands. "Talk," he said. "Keep me here." Erin's fingers paused for the briefest moment. "Here," she repeated. "In my head," Hale said, "not back there." Erin swallowed and set the needle to his skin. The first puncture drew a sharp hiss from him. His hand clamped around his own thigh so hard his knuckles went white. "You asked me earlier why I took this job," Erin said. voice low, steadying herself as much as him. "You want the truth." Hale nodded once, sweat dripping from his chin. Erin pierced again. The needle slid through tissue that resisted, then gave. Hale's chest jerked with a restrained sound, not a scream, more like a breath that had to fight its way out. "My brother Erin said." Hale's eye flicked to her face. "He was a Marine." Erin continued. "Came home with a back injury, nothing cinematic, just pain that didn't stop." She tied the first stitch fingers slick with blood. "The system moved slow," she said. "He got pills to keep him functional. When the pills ran out, he found something cheaper." Hale's breathing rasped. "Heroin," he said, like he already knew. Erin nodded without looking up. "It was laced," she said. "He died alone in his apartment. I found him." The penlight beam shook slightly as her jaw tightened. She forced it steady by biting down. Hale's mouth pressed into a line, something dark passing through his gaze. Erin placed another stitch. "The police said the supply on the coast changed," she said. "Cleaner product, better distribution. Like a business, not a street hustle." She drew the knot tight. "And then I see Senator Reddick on the news talking about military contractors and inspections and budgets. Talking about protecting troops while blocking questions about what moves through military lanes." Hale's breathing hitched. Erin's voice stayed calm, but something in it sharpened. "When the job posting came up, she said high pay. Private duty senator's nephew locked estate. I knew the story didn't match the setting." She clipped the thread with a small snap. "I didn't come here to be a hero," she said. "I came here because I was tired of watching the wrong people die while the right people stayed untouchable." Hale's eye held hers with a different kind of focus now, something that looked like recognition. Erin laid down the last stitch and pressed gauze to the wound, applying steady pressure. "It's closed," she said, "for now." Hale exhaled long and shaking, then nodded once, as if he had accepted a truth. A heavy footstep sounded below, closer this time. Another. Then a faint metallic scrape like someone testing a door or moving a shelf. Hale's head lifted. "They found the closet," he said. Erin's mouth went dry. "What do we do?" she asked. Hale's gaze swept the attic measuring angles and objects. "We buy seconds," he said. "Move that wardrobe." Erin turned to the heavy wardrobe draped in a dust sheet. It was solid oak, the kind that belonged in a museum, not an attic. She shoved it, muscles straining. It scraped across the floor with a sound that felt loud enough to wake the ocean. Hale pushed himself up on shaking legs, moved behind it, and braced his shoulder against the wood, pushing with Erin. Together, they inched it toward the attic door area. They positioned it as a barricade across the entrance, turning the doorway into a narrow choke point with a heavy obstacle that would slow anyone trying to come through. "It won't hold," Erin said, breathless. "It will slow," Hale replied. Lightning flashed briefly, illuminating the attic in harsh white. Erin saw Hale's face, slick with sweat, the scars on his left side tight and glossy, his right hand shaking as he steadied the pistol. He pointed with his chin toward a box of old decorations. "Glass," he said. Erin understood. She grabbed the box, dumped ornaments onto the floor, and began crushing them under her shoe. Glass shattered with small, sharp pops. She spread the shards in a scatter in front of the barricade. Noise, Hale murmured. "That's what it gives us." Down below, a louder scrape, then a thud. A voice rose muffled but clear enough to carry. "On 3. Erin's heart hammered. Hale's pistol rose, muzzle aimed at the barricade. "Don't shoot unless you see them," he said. "I don't even know if I can hit them," Erin whispered. Hale's eye flicked to her. "Then aim for time," he said. "Time is what you're buying." A concussive blast shook the floor. The wardrobe lurched. Dust rained from the rafters. Erin flinched and forced herself to stay upright. Another blast. The wardrobe rocked again, its base sliding a few inches. "Breaching charge," Hale said through clenched teeth. Erin's throat tightened. She moved behind a stack of old mattresses, dragging Hale with her. The mattresses smelled of stale fabric and dust, but they were thick enough to stop at least some splinters, maybe more. The barricade shuddered. Hinges screamed. The wardrobe tipped forward with a heavy crash as the attic entrance gave way. Smoke and dust rolled in. Flashlight beams cut through the haze. White cones slicing darkness. A boot stepped into the attic, crunching glass. Hale did not fire immediately. He waited, breath-held body coiled. The first figure moved in weapon-raised scanning. Erin's hands tightened around the pistol, her grip imperfect, her arms trembling. Hale whispered, barely audible. Now. Erin lifted the pistol and fired. The sound was deafening in the attic, a sharp, violent crack that punched through the storm roar. The recoil jolted her wrists. The shot went wild, punching into wood. Another shot shattered a mirror, scattering glittering fragments. The figure ducked. More beams swung. A voice barked an order. Suppress. Gunfire erupted. Bullets chewed through drywall and rafters, splintering wood and spraying dust. Erin dropped behind the mattresses, heart slamming. Hale grabbed the edge of the mattress and dragged it tighter against them like a shield. "Stay low," he hissed. Erin's lungs burned. The smell of gunpowder mixed with insulation, sharp and choking. A can sat on a shelf beside them, metal old, labeled in faded letters. Paint thinner. Hale's gaze locked on it. He grabbed it with his left hand, grimacing as scars pulled tight across his wrist, and hurled it toward the nearest flashlight beam. The can struck something with a dull thud. A curse followed. Hale's voice cut through the chaos. "Flash out." There was no flash, only confusion. Erin rose just enough to fire again, aiming toward movement rather than clarity. Her shots were uncontrolled, not heroic, but they forced heads down. They bought what Hale had asked for. Window Hale rasped. Erin turned and saw the dormer window on the far side, rain rattling the glass beyond it. She scrambled across the attic floor on her knees, sliding behind furniture, keeping low. Hale moved behind her slower, dragging his bad leg pistol up. The window latch was stiff. Erin yanked it. It gave. Wind and rain slammed into the attic, instantly soaking her scrubs. The storm felt alive now, cold water hitting her face like slaps. Erin grabbed the coil of rope hanging from the wall and looped it around a thick structural beam. Her fingers moved fast, knotting and cinching with muscle memory. She tested it with a hard pull. "You first," she shouted over the storm. Hale stared at her like she had insulted him. "No," he said. "You can't cover me from up here," Erin replied. "Get down and hold the line." Hale's jaw clenched. Pride flared, then yielded to necessity. He slung the rope around his waist, improvised and ugly, then swung his leg over the window frame. His burned side scraped the sill. He hissed, but did not stop. He slid out into the rain. Erin watched him descend, his body swinging against wet shingles, his bad leg dangling uselessly. He moved with raw will arms, shaking teeth clenched. He hit the terrace below with a heavy wet thud and rolled, absorbing impact as best he could. He looked up, eye burning. "Go," he shouted. Erin swung her own legs out and gripped the rope. A hand closed around her ankle. She screamed, kicking backward, heel connecting with something soft and solid. A voice snarled. Erin twisted and saw Dr. Greer at the window glasses, gone face, contorted eyes bright with rage. He had climbed with the team. "You ruined everything," he screamed, dragging her back. Erin's grip slipped. The pistol skidded across the attic floor and vanished into darkness. Greer yanked her inward and shoved her down hard. He lunged onto her hands, going for her throat. Erin's vision narrowed. She clawed at his wrists, but he had leverage and fury. "You don't get to do this," he spat. Erin's fingers flailed across the floor and brushed cold metal. The paint thinner can its lid popped off, liquid sloshing. Her hand closed around it. She swung it up and dumped the contents into Greer's face. The chemical splashed into his eyes. He howled, jerking back, hands flying to his burning face. His scream cut through gunfire like a siren. Erin rolled away and scrambled toward the window, ignoring the pain in her throat, ignoring the tremor in her hands. She grabbed the rope and threw herself out into the storm. The descent tore heat into her palms. Rope burn, skin peeling under friction. She held anyway. She hit the terrace hard, twisting her ankle as she landed. Pain shot up her leg. She bit back a cry. Hale was there in a heartbeat, one arm hooking around her waist, dragging her upright. Greer, he demanded. Erin coughed rainwater mixing with the sting in her throat. Blinded, she rasped. Hale's mouth tightened. Good, he said, and pulled her off the terrace and into the garden. They ran, limping more than running. Hale's weight leaned into Erin, his blood leaving dark drops on stone. Erin's ankle screamed. She kept moving anyway. Behind them, voices shouted. Flashlights swept the lawn beams, cutting through rain. A burst of gunfire snapped somewhere above, then stopped as if the shooters realized they could not aim in this storm without hitting each other. Hale dragged Erin toward the greenhouse near the edge of the property, its glass walls glowing faintly from a small interior lamp. They slipped inside and shut the door. The air was warm and humid, smelling of earth and wet leaves. Rain hammered the glass roof overhead, deafening. For a second, the sound made Erin feel hidden, as if the storm could swallow them. Hale leaned against a potting bench, chest heaving. His face was gray with pain. Erin's eyes darted around. Tools, shelves, gardening gear. Hale's gaze locked onto a long-handled shovel. He grabbed it with both hands and snapped the handle over his knee with a sound like breaking bone. He held the shorter length like a club. Primitive, he muttered. Effective. Erin tried to breathe. Her throat still burned from Greer's grip. Her ankle throbbed. Her hands stung. Hale, she whispered, "You're bleeding." Hale pressed a hand to his side and looked down at the blood, then looked back up as if it were someone else's problem. "I've had worse," he said. Erin hated that she believed him. Through the greenhouse glass, headlights suddenly cut through the rain. A black SUV tore up the driveway, tires spraying water. It did not stop at the gate. It crashed through metal, shrieking as iron bent. The gate weakened by storm, or bypassed by some electronic override. The SUV skidded to a halt in front of the mansion. A man stepped out under an umbrella. Even at a distance, Erin recognized the posture, the controlled anger, the entitlement in the way he moved, as if the world should get out of his path. "Senator Reddick," she breathed. Hale's face hardened into something like ice. "He doesn't trust Greer to finish," he said. Outside, Reddick shouted at the armed men, spilling from the house, his gestures sharp. Even through glass and rain, Erin could see the fury in him. Not fear. Anger that his order had not been clean. Hale watched him like prey. Erin's stomach turned. "We can't outrun them," she whispered. Hale's jaw clenched. "If we run into woods," he said, "they hunt us. Night optics. Drones. Dogs if he feels like it." Erin stared at the mansion, at the moving flashlights, at the storm shutters sealing every window like eyelids. Then what she asked. Hale's gaze flicked toward the house, then toward Erin's pocket where the ledger pressed against her body under her scrub top. "We finished the mission," he said. Erin's breath hitched. How she asked. Hale's eye narrowed. "The jammer," he said. "It's in the library." Erin's fingers tightened around the ledger. The thought of going back inside made her stomach twist. She could still feel Greer's hands on her throat. Hale watched the yard. "They're outside," he said. "They think we ran. They'll sweep the perimeter. Reddick is here arguing. The house will be thin." Erin swallowed. "If we break the jammer," she said, "I can send the evidence." Hale nodded. "1 bar is enough if you're fast," he said. Erin looked down at her phone-soaked screen, smeared with rain. No signal here either. The jammer was still running. She looked back at the mansion. Her heart pounded. Her ankle hurt. Her palms burned. She was exhausted in the way only fear and adrenaline could make you exhausted, like her muscles had been drained of everything but the will to move. She tightened her grip on the ledger. "Okay," she said. Hale's eye held hers. "Stay close," he said. Erin almost laughed at the absurdity. Stay close to the man bleeding through his bandage, armed with a broken shovel handle, while an entire private army hunted them. But she nodded anyway. They moved out of the greenhouse and into the rain again, keeping low, using hedges and stone planters as cover. The storm gave them shadows. Thunder covered the sound of their steps. Lightning gave brief snapshots of the lawn like flash photographs. They reached the back of the mansion where the service entrance sat, half hidden by ivy. Hale pressed against the wall, breathing hard. Erin tried the door. Locked. Hale's gaze flicked upward. A security camera sat above the doorway, its small red light steady. Erin's mind raced. Then she saw a small maintenance panel beside the door, a keypad for staff access. She did not have a code, but she had something else. The key card Greer had given her for the West Wing. Erin swiped it. For a half second, nothing happened. Then the lock clicked. Erin stared surprised. The card opened more than Hale's door. It opened the house, which meant Greer's control was broader than she had realized. Or the Senator's. They slipped inside. The kitchen was dark. The power had been cut, leaving only emergency lights. The air smelled like cold metal and dish soap. The warmth of the greenhouse vanished, replaced by the mansion's sterile chill. Erin shut the door behind them. The house felt different now. Hollow, like it had been emptied of everything human and filled with intent. From outside, muffled through walls, Erin heard shouts and movement near the front. The mercenaries were focused on the grounds. The Senator's voice cut through, occasionally sharp and furious, then was swallowed by thunder. Hale moved with effort, leaning on Erin, leaving faint blood drops on the tile that the darkness hid until lightning flashed and revealed them in sudden red. They pushed through the service corridor and into the main hall, staying close to walls, avoiding open spaces. Erin's eyes darted to cameras, to corners, to reflections in framed glass. She kept her breath shallow. At the edge of the foyer, Hale paused and listened. Footsteps outside, none inside. They moved. The library sat on the ground floor, east side, past a sitting room with covered furniture. Erin's heart hammered as they passed the doors that led to the study, the place where Hanley's body still lay unconscious, the place where Greer had tried to write her death like a footnote. Hale's grip tightened on her shoulder. "Don't look in," he murmured. Erin did not. She kept her eyes forward. They reached the library doors. Heavy, carved, the kind of doors meant to keep the world out. Hale pushed them open just enough for Erin to slip through. He followed slower, his breathing harsh. The library was cavernous, 2 stories tall, lined with shelves that climbed into darkness. A balcony ran along the upper level. The smell of books hit Erin, old paper and dust, but even that comfort was tainted by something sharper beneath it, a faint electrical odor. In the center of the room, on a mahogany table, sat a black box with blinking red lights. Erin's breath caught. "There," she whispered. Hale leaned against the doorframe, face tight. "Break it," he said. Erin stepped toward the table phone, already in her hand thumb, hovering over the screen as if she could force signal through sheer will. She glanced at the device, scanning for switches, keypads, locks. The red lights blinked steadily, unbothered. Erin reached for the nearest heavy object, a marble bust on a pedestal, its blank stone eyes staring forward. She wrapped her hands around it, lifted with a grunt, and brought it down onto the black box with all the force left in her arms. Plastic cracked. A sharp pop of sparks. The red lights flickered. Erin raised the bust again and struck harder. The device shattered. Sparks spat and died. Erin stared at her phone. One bar appeared trembling like a weak pulse. Her breath hitched. "I have signal," she whispered, voice breaking. Hale's eye sharpened. "Now," he said. Erin pulled the ledger out and flipped it open with shaking hands, using her phone camera to snap quick, clear images. She selected the best pages she had already photographed in the study, then added fresh shots in case the earlier ones were blurred. Her fingers moved too fast. She forced herself to slow just enough not to make mistakes. She opened her email and began attaching images, building a message with short, direct text. Names, numbers, dates, locations. Not a story, a blade. Hale stood watch at the doorway club in his hand, breathing ragged. Erin's thumb hovered over the send button. The library lights remained dim, but the upper balcony was darker shadow pooling along its railing. Erin felt an instinctive prickle at the base of her skull, the sensation of being watched. She lifted her eyes toward the balcony. A faint sound reached her, soft and deliberate, like a boot shifting weight on wood. Erin froze. Hale's head turned slightly, his eye tracking upward. The shadows above them deepened, and a voice spoke from the dark, calm and certain. "Don't." The word dropped from the balcony like a weight calm enough to make Erin's skin go cold. Hale turned fully now, Club raised, his breathing ragged but controlled. Erin kept her phone up the signal bar, trembling on the screen like a weak heartbeat. A figure stepped forward from the upper shadows, tactical gear swallowing him in matte black. No mask. No hesitation. The man's face caught a thin strip of emergency light, and Erin saw the scar cutting through one eyebrow like a signature. Hale's posture changed. Not fear. Something worse. Recognition. Cole Hale said the name coming out rough. The man leaned a forearm on the railing as if he owned the room. Commander Cole Mercer replied. His voice carried easy confidence, like he was greeting an old friend at a bar instead of aiming a suppressed rifle down into a library. "You look like hell." Erin's throat tightened. The rifle stayed pointed at her center mass, steady as if Cole had all the time in the world. Hale's club lifted higher. "You were dead," Hale said. "I saw you go down." Cole smiled faintly and started down the spiral stairs, boots quiet on wood. "Close," he said. "I just cashed out before the closing credits." He reached the bottom and stopped in the open rifle still aimed at Erin. His eyes flicked to the shattered jammer on the floor, then to the ledger in Erin's hands, then to Hale's torn bandage and the blood darkening his gown. "You two have been busy," Cole said. Hale's jaw clenched. "You set it up," Hale said. Cole's expression did not change. If anything, his calm sharpened. "I made a decision," he said. "Same as everyone else. You just never wanted to admit the world runs on decisions like that." Erin felt the room narrow around them. The smell of ozone from the smashed device mixed with old paper and dust. Her thumb hovered over the send button, but her eyes stayed locked on the muzzle, tracking her chest. Hale shifted his weight and winced, a fine tremor moving through his hands. Pain was catching up to him. Cole noticed. Cole always noticed. "Put the phone down," Cole said to Erin. "Slow, easy." Erin did not move. Cole's gaze stayed on her like a scope. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said, voice mild. "Not personally. You're just in the wrong room at the wrong time, holding the wrong thing." Hale's laugh was dry and ugly. "Don't talk like you're clean," Hale said. "You murdered our guys." Cole's eyes flicked to Hale with something close to annoyance. "Collateral," Cole said. "And you were supposed to be part of it." The blast did not finish the job. Greer couldn't keep you foggy enough. So the senator drove through a hurricane to make sure the loose ends got tied. At the mention of the senator, Erin's mind snapped to the front lawn, to headlights and shouting, to power and rage wrapped in a trench coat. She pictured Reddick's face behind a camera smile. Then she pictured it without the smile. Cole continued, voice smooth. "Senator Reddick is outside," he said. "He is willing to offer terms. You go back to being the hero. We blame the nurse. We say she is unstable. We say she drugged you, forged the book. You get a clinic with an ocean view. Quiet, comfortable. You forget this night." Erin's stomach turned, and her Hale said, voice low. Cole shrugged, once casual. "She has an accident," he said. "Tragic. Fast. The kind people shake their heads at before they move on." Erin felt Hale's gaze cut toward her, sharp and assessing. Not just protective. Calculating. She understood that look. It was the look of a clinician deciding what to save when there is not enough time for everything. Her thumb trembled over the send button. Hale's voice dropped, almost gentle. "Erin," he said, "send it." Cole's finger tightened on the trigger. Erin saw it, a small movement that meant everything. "You press that button," Cole said, "and I put you down before your screen changes." The storm rattled the shutters. Somewhere outside, a shout rose and was swallowed by rain. In the library, the air held still, waiting. Erin's mind raced through the mechanics. One bar, heavy attachments. Even if the email went out, it would take time. Cole had time. Hale took one small step forward. Club lowered slightly, his posture softer. Cole's eyes tracked him. "Don't," Cole warned. Hale's shoulders eased as if he was giving in. "You want terms," Hale said. "Fine." Cole's mouth curved, almost pleased. "That's the smartest thing you've said all night," Cole replied. Hale's club dropped to the floor with a dull thud. Cole's rifle muzzle shifted a fraction following the movement of the club, the smallest redirect of attention. Hale moved. Not a run. A launch. His broken body threw itself forward with violent, intent momentum replacing speed. He hit Cole like a wrecking ball shoulder, driving into Cole's midsection. The rifle coughed once, muffled a dark little sound, and the shot punched into Hale's chest. Hale did not stop. He drove Cole backward into the shelves, books exploding outward like startled birds. Erin screamed the sound torn out of her. Hale's voice came out wet and raw blood already blooming at his sternum. "Send it," he roared. Erin's thumb slammed down. The phone screen shifted. The upload bar appeared and crawled forward in agonizing increments. 10%. Cole fought like a man who had never been injured in a bed. His elbow snapped into Hale's face, cracking cartilage. Hale's head jerked back, then forward again. He grabbed Cole by the vest and dragged him down, teeth bared, breath gurgling. Cole drove a fist into Hale's ribs, then another. Hale's body shook. Erin saw the old scars pulling tight, the bandage at his side soaking through. 20%. Cole twisted, trying to free his rifle. Hale hooked his forearm around Cole's neck, not clean, not graceful, just desperate. Cole headbutted him hard. Hale's nose broke. Blood sprayed. Hale blinked once and drove his thumbs into Cole's eyes with savage precision. Cole screamed and bucked, ripping free. 40%. Cole staggered back, wiping at his face, rage finally breaking his calm. He yanked a combat knife from his vest blade, flashing in the emergency light. He lunged, driving the knife toward Hale's throat. Hale caught Cole's wrist with both hands. His arms trembled. The knife hovered inches above his skin. Hale's chest wound poured dark blood. His breathing sounded like a man drowning. Erin watched the bar inch forward, helpless. 60%. She grabbed the marble bust she had used to smash the jammer, hefted it in both arms, and rushed toward them. Her ankle screamed. She ignored it. Cole saw her at the last second and kicked out hard, boot slamming into her stomach. The air left her lungs. She hit the floor, the bus slipping from her hands and cracking against wood. The phone skittered but stayed in her grip screen, still glowing. 75%. Cole leaned over Hale again, knife shaking with effort. "You should have stayed buried," Cole snarled. Hale's face was slick with blood. His eyes stayed clear. "You should have stayed, my brother." Hale rasped. The knife tip pressed into Hale's skin. A bead of blood rose. 88%. A soft ping echoed from the phone, just a notification sound, tiny and absurd in the violence. Cole's eyes flicked toward it for a fraction of a second. Hale moved in that fraction. He released Cole's wrist and shoved his hand into Cole's vest fingers, groping with brutal familiarity. Erin's mind caught up too late to what Hale was doing. Hale found a grenade clipped inside the tactical rig, the kind men carried when they believed they would always control the blast radius. Hale's thumb hooked the pin ring. Cole's eyes widened. No, Cole breathed. Hale's voice was a wet whisper, intimate and terrible. "You wanted a retirement plan," Hale said. "Here it is." He yanked. The pin came free. Cole lunged to grab the grenade, fumbling panic, breaking through training. Hale used his legs, weak and trembling, to shove Cole backward with everything he had left. The motion tore pain through Hale's injured side. He made a sound like a growl and kicked again, forcing distance. Erin's upload bar hit 100%. Hale flipped the heavy mahogany table with a final burst of strength, dragging Erin behind it. The table edge slammed down between them in the center of the room. A white flash swallowed the library. The blast was not a sound at first. It was pressure. It slammed into Erin's body and turned her hearing into a high-ringing void. Dust exploded into the air, thick and choking. Wood splinters rained. Books shredded. Erin coughed, throat burning, and pushed against the table's underside. It shifted with a groan. She crawled out into gray haze eyes, stinging hair, and scrubs coated in powder. Emergency lights flickered. The balcony railing sagged. A section of shelving lay on its side like a collapsed wall. "Hail, Erin," rasped. Her voice came out thin, swallowed by ringing. She found him near the wreckage. He lay pinned at the legs under a fallen beam chest, soaked in blood. His face was pale beneath the grime. His eye was open, but unfocused, fighting to stay present. Erin dropped beside him, hands moving without thought. She pressed her fingers to his neck. His pulse was there. Fast, weak, slipping. "Grant," she said, voice cracking, "stay with me." His lips moved. Blood bubbled at the corner of his mouth. "Did it go?" he whispered. Erin swallowed hard and nodded. "It went," she said. "It's out." A faint lift touched his mouth, not quite a smile, more like release. Outside, beyond the broken wall of the library, floodlights cut through the storm. Erin heard the thrum of helicopters, deep and heavy, shaking the air. Voices shouted sharper than the mercenaries' commands, carrying authority that did not need to prove itself. Federal agents, weapons down. Erin turned her head and saw the front lawn through the blown-out opening. Men in blue windbreakers moved in formation. Armored vehicles boxed the driveway. Agents swarmed the black SUV. Senator Reddick was dragged into the rain hands cuffed behind his back, his trench coat hanging open, his face twisted in disbelief and fury. Cameras arrived like scavengers. News vans pushed toward the gate. Floodlights bounced across the wet lawn. The world had found the estate. Bootsteps pounded into the library. Medics in tactical gear dropped to their knees beside Hale. "We've got multiple gunshot wounds," one shouted, hypovolemic shock. They worked fast, cutting fabric packing wounds, starting lines. Erin's hands hovered uselessly for a second, then she forced herself to be helpful. She handed gauze. She held pressure where they told her. She kept Hale's hand in hers when his fingers searched the air like he was trying to anchor to something real. "I'm here," Erin whispered. Hale's grip squeezed faintly, then loosened as medication pulled him under. His eye slipped shut. Erin stayed kneeling in the dust rain, blowing in through the broken wall, mixing with ash and blood. When they finally lifted Hale onto a stretcher, Erin stood on legs that trembled and followed until an agent held up a hand. "Ma'am," the agent said, voice firm but not unkind, "we need your statement." Erin looked past him at the lawn, at the senator in cuffs at Greer, being led out with a medic holding his arm. His face twisted and eyes red, shouting words nobody listened to anymore. Erin's body felt hollow. Her throat still burned. Her palms still stung. Her ankle throbbed. She pulled the ledger from under her scrub top and held it out. "Start with this," she said. 6 months later, the air smelled like salt instead of antiseptic. The rehabilitation center sat near the water in Cape May, bright windows facing a gray-blue ocean. Erin walked onto the terrace with a slower stride now, ankle-healed but still stiff when weather changed. Her hands bore faint rope, burned scars, pale lines that caught sunlight. Grant Hale stood at the railing with a cane taller than she remembered him in the chair, thinner now, his shoulders still broad, but rebuilt with patience. The scars remained settled into lighter tones, no longer hidden under bandages. His eye patch was gone, replaced by a dark lens over the injured eye. The other eye watched the waves with a quiet steadiness. He turned when he heard her approach. "Caldwell," he said, voice deeper, steadier, the edge of humor returning. Erin stopped beside him, close enough to feel the ocean wind and the warmth of the sun. "Hale," she replied. A beat of silence passed, comfortable and strange. "They sentenced Greer," Hale said. Erin nodded. "They tried to make him a lone actor," she said. The ledger did not let them. Hale's jaw tightened, then eased. "And Reddick?" he asked. "Life," Erin answered. He looked smaller without microphones. Hale stared out at the water for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. "My team," he said. Erin's throat tightened. "The families know," she said. "They know it wasn't negligence. They know it was theft." Hale's hand tightened on the railing. The cane leaned against his leg, steadying him. He breathed in slow, controlled breaths like he was teaching his body to trust air again. Erin reached into her pocket and touched her phone, not because she needed it, but because she could. 1 bar. Full bars. It did not matter. It worked. I paid off the house, Erin said after a moment. The bank stopped calling. Hale's mouth curved faintly. Good, he said. Then he looked at her. Really looked the way he had looked the first night, but without the threat. You should have run. Erin let out a small breath. I tried, she lied softly. Hale's mouth lifted a fraction more. No, he said. You didn't. They stood together, the ocean moving in slow rhythm below. Erin rested her hands on the railing. Hale's hand shifted closer, not grabbing, not asking, simply near. He stared at the horizon and spoke as if the words had been waiting a long time. I owe you, he said. Erin shook her head. You don't, she replied. You paid in full. Hale's gaze stayed on the water. I threw glass at you, he said. Erin glanced at him. You missed, she said. Hale's quiet laugh carried into the wind, brief and real. Erin looked out at the waves again. Her chest still tightened sometimes when she heard sudden loud sounds. She still woke some nights with her throat aching from memory. She did not say it. She did not need to. Hale shifted his weight and steadied himself, cane firm on the boards. He turned his head slightly, voice low. Where are you watching from these days? He asked. Erin blinked, then understood what he was doing. Bringing her back into the world, making the moment lighter without making it less true. Erin looked at the ocean, then back at him. Right here, she said, for now.